I need to make a daily debrief video, but first I have to get off the ground. Hello my fellow Renanesians, and welcome to the debrief of day number 10. When I got up this morning, it was after nightmare after nightmare after nightmare, and I finally just decided to get up. I had a very rough weekend with just existence, I guess. I did go to church yesterday, and I sang songs at worship, and that was nice. But after that, things just kind of fell downhill, and I had a migraine all weekend, and right now my stomach hurts a lot, and it's hard for me to talk, so I'm sorry about that. But I told myself I would make a video after every day. So here I am, making a video after the 10th day, the day that ironically is most patients' discharge day, and for me was probably the worst day in my entire program so far. I really didn't want to go today. I knew that as soon as I woke up. I knew that before I went to bed last night. But sometimes the things you don't want to do are the things that you really should do. So this morning, I eventually forced myself out of bed, and I got in the car and we went. And I got there at about 9:10. The program starts at 9:30, and I filled out my paper about anxiety and depression, locusia, whatever the other things are. I'm sorry, today's just a very bad day. And then I put in my headphones, and to be honest, I don't even remember whether I was listening to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire or to music. That's how out of it I was. And I drew. I can't even go get my backpack. Today was really good classroom time too, but I just can't. And then sorry. And then we went into the yoga room at 9:30, and the instructor says that we have to move our mats really close together today because there's gonna be more people. And that just set my brain off even more. It was like, great, today is gonna be miserable. I don't do well with people, let alone being close to people in a small space. That group went by. We did the mountain meditation where we're supposed to embody this mountain and notice the seasons and realize that the mountain stays the same no matter what people's perceptions of the mountain are. And eventually we went to our first group, and I sat down and I drew during intake in my sketchbook. And when it was my time to check in, I said that I simultaneously felt very overwhelmed and very numb, and I didn't know which was worse, my depression or my anxiety. And I had a migraine for 3 days, so it was just, I was just there because I was supposed to be, essentially. And that was all I said, and then we moved on. We went to the classroom time, and we learned about different types of self-care. And I learned that I'm probably very bad at self-care, at least in some regards, especially with emotional self-care and social self-care, in that I don't think I deserve relationships, so I kind of sabotage them for myself in a way because it's just so hard for me. And my stomach hurts. And so, after classroom time, I was very worked up, very overwhelmed. My one prescription ran out, so I knew I needed to go to the psychiatrist, but I didn't know how to go to the psychiatrist. So I went up to one of the psychologists people, and asked, how do I contact the psychiatrist? And she told me to go up to the front desk and ask them. So I went up to the front desk and talked to yet another person who I didn't really know, and she said that I needed to find my program therapist. Usually you go to the front desk and they find your program therapist for you. So at that point I just couldn't, and I walked around for a bit. I went into the bathroom to try and hide, but there were too many people there. So eventually I found a corner by the lunchroom and just sat down, and again, I don't remember whether I listened to a book or to music or to a combination of the two. And eventually people came down that corridor, so I got up and I moved, and I had my music playing so loud that I didn't realize someone was calling my name for a little bit, and I looked up and it was some therapist, and they asked me if I was okay, and I said no, but that's fine. And then we went to our second group, open group, where I just sat on the floor the entire time instead of in my chair, because I just couldn't at that point. I was so overwhelmed with how many people were there, and I just felt so lousy. And then by the time the group was over, the therapist from that group, the leader, came over to me and said, "You did it, you made it through." So I nodded or something. I made some sort of reply. And then I went and I started walking over to the yoga room, but I could not force myself into the room. So I sort of just leaned against the wall. And eventually my therapist found me there and he said, "Are you coming in?" And I said no. So he went and he contacted one of the other therapists because he was going to be leading that group, so he couldn't take me aside to talk to me. And I went back into their office and they tried to get me to calm down some, but I couldn't. And I wasn't having a panic attack, I was just very anxious and very depressed and not having it. And eventually he told me I could go for a walk outside. So I did that. I missed the entire last group. And then that was my day. It was bad. It was a bad day. And now I need to take my meds, and I need to shower, and I need to actually try and sleep. But my stomach hurts so much. And I've already taken meds, and they haven't done anything. I have 4 days left in this partial hospitalization program. I really don't know if I've gotten anything out of it. I don't know if I'm thinking like that just because it was a bad day, because Friday seemed so lovely. I finally said something, and then today it just crashed and burned. But I suppose I'll find out. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel to see more of this content. I have 4 days left in this program. This year I'm making videos about mental illness and chronic illnesses and invisible illnesses, as well as vlogs and music type things. Thank you to the new subscribers who have recently subscribed in the past few days. And as always, thanks for watching.